everyone, and welcome back to another Exo Heroes video. Today we're going to be continuing our tier list of Fated Heroes, and it's going to be Fated Attackers today. So before we get started, I want to make sure we're all on the same page for our grading scale, so I'll go through that really quickly. S and A rank, they're consistently top tier across all facets of the game, or game-changingly strong in a specific role. They're able to unleash their full potential without relying on synergies too much, and should provide consistent value all the way throughout the game. Now, for A specifically, there is a little bit more reliance on the synergies that either other A rank heroes or S rank heroes will provide, so they're not quite as good as S, who are essentially just self-sufficient. B and C, again, we're going to group these up. They're decent to mediocre across most parts of the game. They can be top tier in specific facets like Holy Dragon Grounds or PvP. They're going to be consistent contributors to your early and mid-game development either way, and as you move into the late game, B-tier heroes can still stay around, but C ranks are going to fall off. And finally we have D and F. These are just, obviously not heroes you want. These are not that good in any area of the game. They might be decent in one specific area, but still, you're going to be picking up those B and C ranks real quick, so D and F heroes are just really barely worth mentioning, and they'll fall off your radar pretty quick. So with that having been said, why don't we get right into it?
Yeah, and I think the good thing today is, out of the Fated Attackers, we don't really think there's anyone who would be ranked in, D or F.
Right.
Like most of these heroes, there's only 6 of them. Most of these heroes really do bring quite a lot to everyone's team, I think. Some of them obviously are going to be a little bit better, as we'll touch on them. But let's start with the weaker ones, right? I think at the bottom of the list, it's really Sabrina and Burnadette.
Right.
They're very similar in my opinion. I know you think of them as essentially the same, just with different element and different attack type. I do think Burnadette slightly outshines Sabrina in a way that I like her damage potential. The combination of a 3 mana cost AoE A2 plus her mana utilization passive really brings a lot of damage to her if you set up correctly. Where I think Sabrina has counter passive, and I think that's a kind of a step down from the mana utilization in this specific scenario. But I do think Burnadette really requires the setup to be good. She also brings the Head Dragon Knight passive, but I think out of many heroes that have the Head Dragon Knights, I think she is not very high on my list. So overall, I gave Burnadette a B, I gave Sabrina a C.
Sure, as you can see here, I gave them both C. If we're gonna get really granular, I think Burnadette would be like a C+, because of her Head Dragon Knight passive, which is just a straight buff that Sabrina does not have. I just want to address the point you brought up about counter versus mana utilization. Mana utilization, I think, is good if you could keep her alive, but being a Fated Attacker, I just think that people are going to be targeting her. They do realize her damage potential, and so it's going to be difficult to actually utilize mana utilization, right? You're probably going to get it off maybe like 2 times in a fight. Whereas for counter on Sabrina, anytime she's hit with an AoE, so like she's going to hit someone back. Anytime that she's targeted, she's going to hit someone back. So I think there's more immediate value there, which is why she's not that far behind Burnadette.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's something that we see consistently between the two of us, right? Like you seems to tend to be higher on the consistency.
Sure.
Where I tend to, focus a little bit more about what is a true maximum potential.
Like in the ideal scenario,
right,
what
exactly,
can you achieve?
Yeah. But I think, for the most part, I think we agree on, these two being kind of the worst of the bunch.
Right. We also agree on the next hero, number 4, who is Magi. We gave her the same grade, B as well. So why don't you tell me a little bit about why you think Magi deserves a B rank?
Yeah, I think Magi is actually quite good. I think she is kind of a lesser version or the poor man's Bathory, right?
Yeah.
Very strong AoE specialist. Very good in terms of using her ability in a lot of PvE scenarios in the early game. With relatively low mana cost, especially A1 only costs 1 mana. That will be a great breaker for Guardian Stones. At the same time, she also comes with the Head Dragon Knight passive as well, so that's always something, like you said, just straight up buff in the Holy Dragon Grounds. And I think her Fate Core actually is also pretty good, right? Her Fate Core has the Dragon Emperor Knight's passives, so essentially, the Wrath, Dragon Blood, and definitely offers a lot of utility. I think just overall, when we think about the three we'll mention afterwards, she just seems to be consistently good, but doesn't really excel at any specific area.
Right. I mean, Magi isn't the type of hero to stand out and just dominate one type of content, or any type of content, really. I think that, for me personally, she's decent. Like you said, she's a solid hero, and you went over like the points. I don't want to repeat those. One thing I do want to touch on a little bit more is the fact that if you manage to get her Fate Core, which is the first Guardian, so you're going to have the Dragon Blood, Wrath, the Great One, all of those setup passives, I think that really is where a lot of her hidden value is. Base Magi, decent. But FC Magi, like if you don't have any of the other first Guardians, just slot her into your team, and she could just kind of carry a lot of fights herself coming into the late game.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that is where a lot of her hidden value lies. But why don't we get into the real meat of the discussion here, which is our top three? And I think we do have a little bit of disagreement here.
Right.
So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean we definitely agree on who the best of the bunch is, right? But I think the 2 and 3 is where a little bit of disagreement happens. You seems to have Rachel ranked slightly higher than Rudley, and I think I know why. Where I have Rudley ranked a little bit higher than Rachel, and I think this all goes back to the same argument that I think Rudley's full potential with his Fate Core, with his synergy with Garth, I believe the maximum potential is higher than what Rachel can offer. But I think Rachel, whether you have the base Rachel or the Fate Core Rachel, it definitely has a little bit more consistent output. Right. So let me take you guys through Rachel quickly. So I think Rachel is very good, especially in PvP scenario, right? I gave Rachel an A overall. I think he's S tier in PvP. Very good when it comes to his A2 with a passive that offers additional attack speed and attack to the entire team. Fantastic skill, but does require setup. It's a 5 mana cost skill. Does require a lot of setup. We have him and we've tested him. When you can get to that skill, it's amazing. But sometimes he gets bursted down before he can even use it.
Right.
And also he has pretty good synergy with Baraka, right? He does have a leader skill, Dishearten. So when you pair him with Baraka, that kind of alleviates a little bit of his mana hungry situation with Baraka's passive being able to offer a little bit of that mana battery effect. So I think there's a good synergy here. But when you compare that to Rudley and what Rudley can do when paired with Garth, right?
Yeah.
Like that pairing is so strong. Garth, one of the best top tier fated defender, offers amazing survivability to your entire team. Rudley comes with amazing damage just by himself.
Right.
And at the same time, he's able to bring in these additional utilities such as, shield to the team and himself, being able to offer additional HP and defense if we have his Fate Core. It just makes the whole team so hard to kill. And the synergy between the two is, in my opinion, probably second to none. And I think maybe you can make an argument that Bathory and Rira could be a better pair, but at the same time, I think Rudley and Garth is up there. So that's why I give the edge to Rudley, because I think that maximum potential that comes with his Fate Core and his synergy with Garth just outshines what Rachel can do. But what do you think?
Alright, so it's my turn now. Oh man, so for me, like you said, I value consistency, because when I think about a gacha game, who are a lot of the people that are going to be playing? It's free-to-play players, or maybe dolphins, people that'll spend like $20 here and there on like a birthday or a holiday, but they're not going to be pumping like thousands into this game. And so I think that when we're looking at this tier list, or when I was looking at this tier list, it was very important for me to consider how realistic are these scenarios where you're going to be, unleashing this full potential like you're talking about. Because you need to get Rudley, first of all. Then you need to get Garth. And we just got Rudley today, and Garth is nowhere to be seen. And we've been playing for a while, we've been pulling weekly, and we have videos about that, so, I mean, everyone can keep up with it. I think that overall, we pulled Rachel as well, FC Rachel earlier on, and it's like, there's a reason why Rachel has been a staple on our team, right? I think that for PvE content, because typically they're not going to be as hard hitting as, higher tier PvP, like as you rank up, then Rachel doesn't really have a problem surviving. The 5-mana skill in PvE content, he gets it off pretty consistently, he's buffing his team pretty consistently, it's an AoE on top of that, his damage is good, his speed is good, his crit is good. I think statistically, like if you look at the numbers, Rachel is just so solid as a hero by himself, and then, like you said, he's got those additional synergies as well, right, those leader skills. And so I think that it's just like he's already really good, and he just has that little bit of oomph that is just applicable all the time. Whereas, again, base Rudley, I don't think is that good. FC Rudley is amazing, for sure. FC Rudley is S+ tier, really, really good. But base Rudley, again, his passive is only, counter? He only has the counter passive. He only has single target abilities that do hit pretty hard, but they have high mana cost. And so what? Like, if you bring Rudley as an attacker and you don't have Garf, that's all he does. He's just a nuker, right? Which is fine, but I don't think that he deserves second place. I don't think he deserves to stand next to Bathory, because he just doesn't, by himself, he doesn't do enough, right? Now, again, I am completely with you. If you get Garf, if you get FC Rudley, then yes, he blows Rachel out of the water. But given the situation that I feel like most of our viewers are going to be in, I just feel more comfortable recommending Rachel.
Sure.
But who I always feel comfortable recommending is our number one, Bathory.
Bathory. Yeah. So, I mean, and I think everyone expected this, right? I think Bathory, coming into the game, one of most sought after hero in the entire game. And I think it's very easy to understand, right? Bathory with his base kit is very similar to Magi, right? Very AoE focused, good damage. But I think her unique passive and her leader skill really brings her to the next level, right? The Tranquil leader skill is probably one of the best.
I would say the best.
Yeah, and let me break that down a little bit, right? So the base Tranquil skill essentially lets her to put Tranquil mark on everyone who has less attack than her. And that's essentially pretty much everyone in the game.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone's gonna get that. And just passively, with the Tranquil mark, she will be able to essentially blocks death once throughout the game. And that's amazing. That's game-changingly strong, whether you're looking at PvP or you're looking at PvE scenarios. It's just so strong. You don't need to bring another healer with a revive skill, right? This essentially does that for you. And it's team-wide. And also, the Tranquil also has a couple of specific synergies. And I think it's so strong in that both of her synergies are paired with heroes that are also amazing.
Right.
Wulum is really, really good. But when you pair Wulum with Bathory, Wulum becomes an S tier hero. And the ability to break 3 Guardian Stones randomly, it's so strong in so many areas. And obviously you can pair her with Rira as well, and Rira does additional damage. Not that Rira needs additional damage already, but just think about that, right? It's so strong, the base passive, what it can provide to your team, and the fact that you can team her up with 2 other top tier heroes in the game. It's just amazing.
Right, I agree. And I want to make a quick point regarding Tranquil, because keep in mind, it's not a resurrect in that you die and you come back to life, or that it heals you, but it's just rather, if you're going to take fatal damage for that turn, then she prevents you from dying. So just a little bit of clarification there. Obviously, it's still insanely strong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So Tranquil is, I think, absolutely what sets Bathory apart, because her other passive is mana utilization, which other attackers have, other heroes have that. So really, it's just Tranquil that encompasses why Bathory is strong. But I think overall, she's an AoE monster. Her mana utilization builds off of that and then just gives her even more damage, right? Tranquil, I think that one thing that you mentioned that I want to touch on as well is just, it's so important because Rira and Ulum, like you said, are already really good heroes. Whereas you look at Rachel, and who does he synergize with? Shah Khan. And it's like, Shah Khan, even with the synergy, is not, well, I wouldn't say that, but he's not that good. Right? Like,
Baraka is good though.
Baraka is good. And so, but like, how many of those heroes, like Jinai, has synergy with what? Shell and Jin? Right? And so like, Jin, pretty good.
Right.
But his actual effect that he gets when paired with Jedi is like, it's a silence and like a mana burn. It's not that amazing.
Yeah.
And then Shell, most people underrate Shell in my opinion. We'll talk about that in a different video. But, you know, most people don't really think Shell is that good or even have her to begin with. And it's just the fact that Bathory has the synergy with two strong heroes, and those synergies themselves are also strong. Like, if you replaced her synergy with Ulum with like extra damage, it'd be good, but not as good as breaking 3 Guardian Stones.
Right.
And I think that like, I really don't know what the devs were thinking when they made her, because
I think
she's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Bathory just really embodies our definition for what an S-tier hero should be, right? She is consistent across all areas of the game. You can use her anywhere. She is game-changingly strong, especially when we think about like PvP-focused endgame content. And the fact that she doesn't really require a synergy herself to be good.
Right.
She can do that without anyone else. But when you pair with her someone that's also good, she just becomes even better. She has no weakness, and there's only endless upside when it comes to Bathory. So
one thing I will mention really quick is, if you guys haven't been keeping up with the news, obviously there's the Summer Festa event going on right now, and the news in the community has been that they're releasing some heroes with passives, like I believe we have FC Scarlet.
Right, and then
Right.
the Ice Shower passive, I think it's called.
Right, so they come with a couple of passives, and one of them protects the team from frost element damage for 1 turn, and then gives you a damage buff if you get hit by it. And so I think that, like I mentioned earlier, what were the devs thinking? They've got their head in a better place now, and they're starting to realize Bathory doesn't have counterplay, so they're beginning to introduce champions that can do that. I think, you know, the older this video gets, the older the game gets, we will start to see Bathory fall down in the tier list, but Tranquil passive, the Protect from Death, is always going to be strong, so she's always going to have that utility, but maybe not as OP as she is currently.
But with that being said, I think that's our take on the Fated Attackers. And obviously, I know many of you probably have different takes, so feel free to let us know. Let's start a discussion in the comment section down below. But otherwise, we'll be coming up with more Fated tier lists in the near future, so stay tuned for those. And with that being said, if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like or subscribe. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Alright, peace.